So at the moment, one of the villains among the mainstream media reporting is, of course, Elon Musk. Now, let me say up front, I am not a fan of gazillionaires meddling in politics. I'm not a fan of George Soros doing such, or Michael Bloomberg doing such, or Mark Zuckerberg doing such. And the truth is, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk doing such. With that said, partisanship in politics is always to a great extent hypocritical, of course, because all of the people who are just fine with George Soros and Michael Bloomberg and Zuckerberg spending millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to sway politics, they, of course, now have an issue with Elon Musk's role with the current administration, which, again, I admit I am not entirely comfortable with. Now, with that said, once again, we have people throwing absolutely asinine tantrums to the extent where they are vandalizing Tesla vehicles of their fellow citizen. And it's really amazing to think that somebody would have the gall to destroy the private property bought and paid for by other people just because that particular item is manufactured by a company that is owned by somebody whose politics they don't like. But that's where we are. The great irony with this whole Tesla thing is, of course, that it's typically liberals who buy Teslas. I don't know many conservatives who buy a Tesla, right? It's not diesel guzzling Ford F-150s or whatever that Tesla manufactures. They manufacture the stereotypical liberal bubble car. And that's the irony of this. So what I want people to realize, though, is as we move further and further into this very heightened political climate, that everything you own, everything you wear, everything you show to the world can draw attention to you by bad actors. Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. And, I'm sure there'll be leftists who chime in telling me how, he's a criminal in the White House and all of that, as if excusing the behavior of people who, again, would damage property that belonged to others just because of their political leanings, right? Constant far left temper tantrums. It is a vicious cycle that we can never seem to escape in this country. So bear in mind that if you own a Tesla, of course, probably if you read my blog, you don't own a Tesla anyway. So it's probably, not much point in talking about this because my kind of people don't own Teslas. With that said, if you own a Tesla, I think you have every right to own it without it being destroyed because of far leftists having temper tantrums. That's my view of it. I don't like Teslas personally. Elon Musk, I'm kind of 50-50 with him. I think he does some good stuff. I think he does some not so good stuff. If you're into electric vehicles and like the Tesla, you have every right to own it without little leftist crybabies setting it on fire. And it's really disgusting, the point that we're at. So bear that in mind, that if you're driving that vehicle currently, there are bad actors out there who may target it to destroy it, to, set it on fire, which we've seen some instances of that. Scratch it up, key it back into it, whatever the case may be. And here is my overwhelming advice with this. If you witness it happening, let it happen. And before you accuse me of being a pacifist and saying, well, that's my property, I'm going to defend it, you do not have the legal right to use lethal force to defend property. Now, if family members are in the car, that's totally different, but that's not what I'm talking about. If your Tesla is parked in a garage somewhere and some Antifa idiots are setting it on fire, let it burn. That's what insurance is for. You do not wade into these things to assume not only the physical threat to yourself, and also assume the possibility of maiming or killing others, as much as scumbags that they may be. Okay, your right to use lethal force is only to protect innocent life. It is not to protect property. So you're going to have to let that one go, okay, legally. Um, and this is where we're at, you know. So do not utilize force to protect property. It is that simple. You cannot do that. Now, if you're sitting in the car or if you have loved ones in the car, when some scumbag tries to throw a Molotov cocktail at it or something like that, then that is clearly justifiable, lethal force. But do not get into chasing people down who scratched your Tesla. Do not get into interceding in attempted vandalism of your Tesla or whatever other vehicle that may be in the crosshairs of the left at some point in the future. You need to let those things play out. That is what insurance is for. And do not accuse me of being a pacifist, because if you don't want to take that advice, don't take it. And tell me how that goes for you when you're prosecuted for manslaughter. Okay? So this is the world that we live in. Be careful where you go. Be careful what you do, especially if you're driving a Tesla lately. It's almost laughable, isn't it? It's almost laughable. But that's what we're up against these days, folks. Stay safe.